Now, having created a table from scratch and having entered the field names in the first column of the design of the table, notice that the second column is called data type, and every field that you enter, by default, it sets the data type to text. But when you click on text to the right of employee ID, for example, you can see it's actually a drop-down. And when you click the drop-down, you can see there's a finite set of choices. What you can do is start to be a little bit more specific about the type of data that will be stored in each field. For example, employee ID, I don't want them to type an employee ID into each record. What I'd like it to do is automatically assign a number to each employee. So I'm going to change the data type to an auto number. An automatic number means that Access will generate a unique automatic number for each employee. Title of courtesy effectively is Mr., Mrs., Ms., Doctor, Prof, whatever. And so that really is text, alphanumeric information. So I'm going to leave title of courtesy, first name, last name, and job title as text fields because we are going to enter text into those fields. But the birth date is not text. I want them to enter a date into the birth date field. So I'm going to change the data type literally to a date. In fact, a date/time field. So now they have to enter a date in this particular field, and I want them to do the same for hire date, that they have to enter a date or a time. Address line 1 is text, so is line 2, and so is town and city, and actually so is home phone. I could make home phone a number, but I don't want to make it a number because most phone numbers start with a leading 0, they might have spaces, they might have hyphens, and so they have alpha information. So I'm going to leave home phone as a text field. Email, I'd like to change the data type to a hyperlink, and a hyperlink is an option listed. A hyperlink means that when they enter an email into this field, it will automatically go blue and underlined, and when you click it, it'll automatically open up a new mail message automatically addressed to their email address. When it comes to salary, I want it to show as currency, much like Excel. So I want them to enter a number and for that number to appear as currency. So that's what I'll make the data type. When it comes to married, I want them to enter a yes or a no. So I'm going to change this to a yes/no field. And that will actually appear as a tick box where they'll enter a yes or no. When it comes to dependents, that's the number of children. So that actually has to be a true number. And when it comes to a photo of the employee, I really don't want them to type text or type a number or type a date. I actually want them to insert or embed an object. An OLE object, OLE stands for an object that is linked or embedded. So it's a photograph that's copied and pasted, not actually data that's typed. So I'm going to make this an object. And when it comes to the note field, I don't want to make this a text field because a text field only accepts up to 255 characters. Instead, I'm going to make it a memo field. A memo field accepts up to 64,000 characters, so a lot more than a text field. So what we're basically saying here is we're being more specific about the type of data that can go into each of these fields. If a field is a text field, it'll accept alphanumeric information up to 255 characters. If it's a memo field, it'll accept alphanumeric information again, but up to 64,000. If it's a number field, it will only accept a true number, no spaces and no leading zeros. If it's a date field, it'll expect a date. If it's a currency field, it'll expect a number and it'll format it as currency. If it's an auto number, then Access will generate an automatic number for each record. If it's a yes/no field, it'll be a tick box that they have to enter yes or no. If it's an OLE object, then really it's going to be an object like a map or a photo or a chart that's going to be copied and pasted or inserted in some way. If it's a hyperlink field, then it's going to be blue underlined text, which when clicked will take them off to a specific email address or a specific file. And the last three we'll look at when we create other particular tables. We've handled the field name, we've handled the data type, so the last column in the top half of the screen is called the description. Now the description is text that is optional, and it actually says it here too. The field description is optional. It helps the user basically decide what they need to enter into each field, and it's also displayed on the status bar when they move to each field in a form. Let's just try this. So employee ID, I want to type a description that says, do not enter, simply press the tab key. So I don't want them to enter anything in here. I simply want to press the tab key to move to the next field. So you can type anything. Here I'm expecting them to type either Mr. Gosh, I can type. Mrs., Miss, Ms, or any other title courtesy. And here I want them to type the employee's first name. And here I want them to type the employee's surname. Enter the employee's job title. So basically you can continue to go down and put a description for each field. But let's save what we've got so far. So I'm going up to my quick access toolbar in the top left of my screen and hitting the save button. Now I want to close this particular table, so I'll hit the close TBL employee button. So I've got one table which is a little bit more specific in its design now than it was earlier. When I double click it, what I have here are still the column headings that I established earlier, but now look down here in the status bar. This is the description we typed. Do not enter. Simply press the tab key to move to the next field. So that's what I'm going to do. Now if I am sitting in the title of courtesy field and look down at my status bar, I can see type either Mr., Mrs., Ms., Miss, or any other title of courtesy. So I'm going to put Mr. Now as soon as I type Mr., because employee ID is an auto number, you can see it's automatically gone to the number 1. So they don't have to type the employee ID. This is an automatic number. What I'd like to do now is press tab, and as the status bar says in the bottom left of my screen, type the employee's first name. So I'm just going to type Joe. Press tab, type blogs, press tab, his job title is sales, press tab, and now I'm at a field that has a data type date time. When a field is set to the data type date time, you suddenly acquire a date picker, and you can choose the date to enter, or you can type it in, and I'm going to type it in because his birth date was some years ago, so the 1st of the 1st 60. The hire date is also a date time field, so it also has a date picker, but I'm going to type in the hire date. He was hired on the 1st of the 1st 80. Address line 1 is a text field, so I'll just type High Street. I don't have to fill in every field, so I'll leave address line 2 blank, but the town city is Rotorua. The phone number is also a text field because I want to put a leading 0 and then 7 574 9074. Awesome. Email is a hyperlink field, so I'm just going to put joe@extra.co.nz. And this is what I mean about it appearing blue and underlined. And if I was, which I won't, but if I was to click this, it would create a new mail message automatically addressed to joe@extra.co.nz because it's a hyperlink field. Now salary was a currency field, so if I type 40,000, as soon as I press tab or enter, it's a currency field and the 40,000 appears as currency with a $sign, a comma every thousandth and 2 decimal places. Now married was a yes/no field, so that's why it appears as a tick box, and by default it's on no. If I hit the space bar, I'm saying yes. If I hit the space bar, I'm saying no. Or I could just click it with my mouse. But I'm going to hit the space bar and say yes. Now dependent is the number of children, so I type a number 2. Photo, I don't have a photo yet, but if I did have a photo, I could just copy and paste it into this field. And notes, I could put lots of text in here and provide notes about Joe, but I'll just leave that blank as well. And press enter. Immediately the first record is saved. It's Mr. Joe Blogs. And again, I'm sitting back in employee ID, which is an auto number, and I can see the description at the bottom. So to view the design of the table, I'm looking at the table employee at the moment. If I look to the far left of the ribbon, I can see the set square view. If I click that set square, I view the design of the table. And now we've sort of seen the impact of the field names or our columns, the data type controls what we can type in a field, and the description appears at the status bar at the bottom of our screen. And as I mentioned in an earlier video, it's important to switch between Datasheet view, which is that, the table, and design view, which is that.